In July 2026, during an ASEAN summit in Manila, the Chinese Foreign Ministry released a highly unusual readout. They claimed that India's foreign minister had agreed to a major concession, that India, quote, respects China's sovereignty. New Delhi issued a sharp rebuttal. Dr. S. Jaishankar's office clarified the actual statement, that when it comes to sovereignty, it is India that is raising the issue against China. India pointed directly to the map, reminding Beijing of its illegal occupation of territories across Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, a presence that has persisted since 1963. These two nuclear neighbors are trading territorial accusations on the global stage, making it clear that the border crisis is far from over. To understand why this clash in Manila is so jarring, we have to look back at October 2024. At the time, the global community largely assumed the border crisis was finally resolved. Both nations had just executed a highly publicized troop disengagement at Depsang and Demchok, ending a 4-year military standoff. Much of the world interpreted this military de-escalation as a sign that the two countries had reached a geopolitical peace, but that assumption was wrong. Pulling soldiers back from the front line addressed the tactical risk of war while leaving the strategic dispute untouched. The modern crisis began in June 2020 with the violent clashes in the Galwan Valley. For the first time in nearly half a century, soldiers died on this border. What followed was a massive military buildup. Both sides deployed thousands of troops and heavy weaponry into high-altitude terrain along the line of actual control. Stepping back from that brink required 17 rounds of diplomatic talks and 21 separate military negotiations just to reach a framework for disengagement. The October 2024 agreement achieved specific, localized goals, establishing buffer zones, resuming traditional patrolling, and returning troops to their bases. This effort restored the fragile status quo that existed before 2020, but it did not provide a solution for the original border disagreement. India reached this military stalemate by systematically shifting the local balance of power, ensuring Beijing could no longer dictate terms at the border. To overcome severe logistical disadvantages in the Himalayas, India tripled its border infrastructure spending over the last decade. They completed massive engineering projects like the Atal Tunnel, which allows Indian forces to move troops and supplies to the front lines throughout the winter. They built roads and airfields across the highest, most hostile passes on Earth, fortifying their defensive posture in terrain that was once considered inaccessible. These permanent investments in concrete and steel suggest that India is preparing for a long-term, high-friction border rather than a return to mutual trust. No tactical disengagement can resolve a territorial dispute built on decades of historical grievances. This map shows the core issue. Since 1962, China occupied 38,000 square kilometers in Aksai Chin. In 1963, Pakistan ceded another 5,180 square kilometers to China. Today, India demands respecting the line of actual control, following past agreements, and preventing unilateral changes. While the 2024 agreement addressed the immediate risk of a military clash, the core dispute over the location of the border remains exactly as it was in 1962. This is the new baseline for India-China relations. The imminent threat of war has been replaced by a heavily fortified and deeply suspicious stalemate. The ongoing strategy is to manage these differences so they do not escalate into open conflict. Communication channels remain open at global summits, but the underlying trust has vanished. New Delhi maintains a clear position. Tranquility at the border is the non-negotiable prerequisite for any progress in the wider relationship. While the troops have physically stepped back, the structural standoff remains the defining feature of Asian geopolitics for the foreseeable future.